What's going on, everybody? You guys, it is going to be a fun one today. We are going to have a live conversation all about Batman, and I'm bringing in my homie. Y'all should know him by now. It is Chris Chavez. What's going on, Chris?
What's going on? How you doing, man?
Hey, man, I am doing good. It's always a good time when I get to sit down and talk with you, and we haven't really chopped it up in a while. And I'm glad that you are super stirred up to talk about the Batman. I don't want to mess around and call it Batman. It's
Right.
the Batman. You know,
Yeah,
it's like those college football players that are like, I'm from the Ohio State University.
Right. Yeah.
Put some
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah, I really wanted to talk to you about this. Batman is my favorite character, so this would be great.
Yeah, let's do it. So for some of you guys who've never been here on the channel, here on Freedom Story Entertainment, when I get time with Chris, one of the things that we love to do is do top 5. So during our review conversation here, we're going to sit down and let Chris walk us through kind of his top 5 things about the Batman that he loved. And I would love it if you guys in the comments below would chime in and let us know, some of the things that maybe you've really been enjoying as you watched it, or if you disagree with some of the stuff that we say, vehemently shout it out. And if you're actually even on here live with us right here, we might even throw your comment up on the screen so you can be a part of this show as well. So having said all that, Chris, what do you say we go ahead and just get into the conversation?
I love it. So right up, this music is beautiful. So right off the bat,
Boom, boom.
When this movie was announced and they said Robert Pattinson was going to be Batman, everyone had their thoughts about it, and that's where I'm going to start. I'm starting with casting.
All right.
So Batman. When we think of Batman, we do think of this broad, massive man that could break you in half, like this beefy guy. But the fact that they focused on year 2 Batman, he's just starting out. He doesn't know really, what he's doing. He's consumed by vengeance. He doesn't really know who Bruce Wayne is. He knows who Batman is. He is Batman.
Right.
There is no Bruce yet.
Yeah.
And there he is, the man. He did such an amazing job in this role. One thing I appreciated is his use of his own bat voice. If you notice, he didn't really do the growl. He just kind of lowered his voice.
Yeah.
Which is because, obviously, if anyone puts that suit on, your mindset, you're going to change your voice. It's part of the process.
Yeah. But, I'm laughing because I was just having a conversation. I'm going to try not to do too much of this. I was just having a conversation with somebody in another life, you guys. I'm a pastor, so I preach. And they talk about how when you get behind the pulpit, so to speak, you turn on preacher voice. And for some reason, it's a reality. And I didn't realize that until someone mentioned it to me. So I get it, Robbie Pat. There is this, but he didn't do it. He refrained.
He held back. And then, everyone else, Colin Farrell, Zoe, Paul Dano, Andy Serkis, the cast was set up perfectly for the world that Matt Reeves was crafting. And Colin Farrell, I think, pluck him out of Batman, and I am so excited that they are making an HBO series based off of the Penguin.
Oh, so they're using him as it, right?
Yeah.
See, I did not know that. That's going to be dope. So a whole series, not a movie, but like a series, kind of like how Disney Plus has been.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be like a 6-episode arc like Moon Knight, or if it's like an actual 13-episode normal. But his character and his performance was just so captivating. You were kind of afraid of him. He was kind of like sleazy, but at the same time, you didn't want him to leave the camera. You wanted to see more of him.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it right there. You wanted some more of him, because for me, I was really intrigued and impressed. First of all, it took me having a conversation with somebody else to tell me that was Colin Farrell. I think originally when the cast was said, like the names, I didn't know who everybody was. I knew who Robert Pattinson was, and I knew Colin Farrell was in it. but I didn't know when I saw the trailer that that was him. And somebody was like, "Oh, that's Colin Farrell." I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Transformation. And from a character standpoint, like the development of his story and who he really was, like it was intriguing and not like I mean, it was intriguing and memorable, but not memorable in like a campy way. Kind of like how,
Yeah.
I felt like Danny DeVito's Penguin. He very much looked like a penguin, but there was something very just not realistic about that whole portrayal, and this
Agreed.
was really realistic, and it made me like want to know more about. Okay, let me hear his backstory because I feel like it's going to be different than the stories that I've heard of different iterations, be it from, the one with Danny DeVito or from Gotham. I
Yeah.
want to hear how are they gonna like talk about the development of Penguin. So
It
yeah,
was a great like double origin story if you think about it. So you have Bruce's year two, and then you
mhm,
have Penguin is just the side, just low. He's not really that low of a level, but he's lower than
yeah,
the totem pole. Carmine
right,
Falcone is the main boss, and so it's kind of
right,
cool to see where Penguin's going to shape up. But yeah, fantastic. If I mean, talk about being changing your voice. Can you imagine putting the prosthetics on for Penguin? How
right. Like that's
your
had to be a whole
demeanor
thing.
just shifts. It's crazy. But yeah, casting for me and Zoe was a perfect Catwoman. She was
Absolutely. I was so glad that you mentioned Zoe because I was literally just about to go there if you were about to be done with casting because I was like, I thought so going into it, I didn't imagine. So I remember enjoying Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, and not so much basically anybody else that's tried the role. But I remember going into it thinking, okay, how is this gonna work? Like, is she gonna really be able to pull this off? But like she nailed it, and I feel like I don't know that I'll ever want to see anybody else as Catwoman now. And I would even be open for like maybe a Catwoman movie, and like having her own version versus. I know that it brings back bad memories. I'm not gonna lie, of some of the other Catwoman solo projects that we had, but I would be
yeah.
interested in hers.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we only know Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, yeah, like you said, we just
Yeah,
pretend. Michelle Pfeiffer is the only one that we knew of,
right,
and
right.
she
That's all that
was
matters.
my favorite Catwoman. I mean,
Yep.
that version was fantastic, but it Zoe felt like they pulled her from the comic strip and put her on the screen.
Mm,
It
right.
felt, and finally we got to see an actual relationship with Bruce and Selena because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
knew they were an item in the comics, and so it's nice to finally see them develop this relationship, and I hope they go deeper into it in the next one. So
And
hats off.
and she felt very natural, like as who she's portrayed at. Like she it didn't feel like this stretched thing. There's so much of the other Batmans, maybe really what I want to say, and it might end up stealing one of your top fives, is that it was just the realistic portrayal of this
Yeah,
Batman. That it doesn't feel like all the glitz and glam that you would imagine of a superhero. It's more of like a gritty, you know, here's a guy, who's got some toys, and he's trying his best to be vengeance, and yeah, it's just really cool. And I even one last thing on casting, Jeffrey Wright, I
oh yeah.
did not I did not think that was gonna work either. I was like, bro, but like Commissioner Gordon, like how's that really gonna go? And man, he nailed it. I was like, wow. Like
Again,
I love
that's
it.
another relationship that we really didn't see develop. I mean, we saw in Christopher Nolan's,
Yeah.
Commissioner Gordon and Batman have that relationship, but this was like, it was like like they were partners. They were
Yeah,
working
totally.
together. They were, and I missed that. I wanted that relationship as much as I wanted the Selena Bruce relationship, and that I want him to stay in that role because he
Yeah.
is. Yet again, I can't see anyone else being Commissioner Gordon now.
And
He's a great actor.
top notch actor even before this. And it's like, wow, okay. this is the movie we always waited. And I feel so bad. I feel so bad now when I saw the trailer and I had so much doubt. So much doubt because I'm just like, they can make great trailers, but let's see what DC can do. And they did not disappoint. So we spent a lot of time on part one because casting was huge. There's
Oh,
so
yeah.
many great cast members. So what's your number two?
So number two, we're going to go with story. Now, story is going to be for me when I first saw it, from the first like 5 minutes. The opening monologue he had, the voiceover, right? I was like, oh my god, I'm watching a comic book. It felt like I opened up a page of a Batman novel and I'm just in it. It was just amazing. So following year two, because we've seen an older Batman, we've seen kind of the like middle-aged Batman, but we haven't seen him as a kid. He's like 25, 26 in this film. And so it was really cool to see him figuring things out. And there's one specific moment I wanted to pluck out that I thought was amazing. When he escaped the police GCPD and he jumped off the building.
Yes.
That small moment of when he looked over the edge and he freaked out.
Yep.
Those little moments that Matt Reeves plucks out of the performance to show that he does know what he's doing. He's a kid. And you can tell that's the first time he's ever jumped off of the building.
Yep. I'm so glad you said that moment. I totally would have forgotten about it. But I remember sitting there in the theater, and when I saw that moment, it was like, oh, like I suddenly, for the first time ever, in ever reading or watching, I suddenly related to Batman. Because I have a fear of heights. And it was like, oh, yep, I know that moment right there. And wow, you pushed through. Way to go, Batman. But like, I don't know that I would have done that. But like he was embracing, oh man, like shoot, I'm about to straight up jump off a building, you know? Yeah, and then he doesn't even have a super smooth landing. It looks like it kind of hurts, and he's like, he doesn't like totally, win all of his fights, like hands down. He takes some punches.
You made an excellent point. You connected with Batman more, and it's little things like that, and little things like he actually gets beat up in this movie. He doesn't he's not unbreakable. He's he gets a lot of knuckle sandwiches.
Yeah. Like what you would imagine, like somebody who, you can fight and everything, and you got some equipment, but like you're taking on a bunch of dudes, and there's always this thing going on, I think, in the back of my head when I'm watching some of these movies where I have to like suspend my disbelief and just say, okay, well, yes, he's a superhero, so he's going to do all this perfectly. Like, look at Black Panther make all these moves. But like here, it was like, I would imagine you would take a few punches like to the head and like really have to be fighting through this in order to, more like how the Punishers, fight scenes were portrayed. Like
he's just as bloody as the guys he's fighting. Yeah.
Yep. He's just gonna outlast.
Hats off to Matt Reeves in creating like what came before with the reality that Christopher Nolan set. It's like, how do you tell your own story, right? Yeah. How do you tell Batman again, but make it feel new? And the fact that he turned it into this thing where it really wasn't a superhero movie. It was a film noir detective murder mystery. That's essentially what it is. And Batman just happened to be in it.
Yeah.
And so going from that mindset completely changes the landscape of the Batman franchise.
Absolutely. And I couldn't help but like get vibes of not just, so yes, absolutely, it's a detective film, but like the ones that I was relating to and I saw immediately was like Seven, and like the chasing after and hunting down and trying to find out like this serial killer, because it's a detective film, but it's really like serial killer type of mystery where we're trying to find these clues because they all kind of operate like that, and then you start to realize, oh man, Riddler's really more like those guys than he is like, the wacky, zany, goofball that we've kind of all come to know him as.
Paul Dano's take on, we didn't talk about him in casting, but side note, Paul Dano's take on the Riddler was terrifying. Terrifying to the point of like, when you saw Heath's Joker, when he was doing the same thing with the phone and yelling into the phone, he had that like presence to him that you don't want to mess with this man, specifically wearing that costume. So
Yeah,
it's not
definitely.
your grandpa's Riddler. Yeah.
No, it's not. All right, what is your number 3?
Actually, number 3 is going to fall into line with what you said earlier with 7. It's going to be the pace. The reason why I said that with 7 is the pace of the movie is it's a long movie and it's great because you need to build this character arc. And I agree with you. It's like 7 meets Chinatown with Jack Nicholson. It has this
Yeah, yeah.
dirty, grungy. It makes it. I know this is a bold statement, but the pace of this movie made this movie feel more like how I pictured Gotham to be than any other movie, Batman movie prior. Because they kind of build this, like, especially in the beginning, this great little montage of all these people afraid of the shadows. They don't know if he's going to come out of an alleyway. They don't know if he's going to come over a building. And they just made this beautiful little arc for all these characters. And he did a good job with the pacing of the film.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even think about it like that. But I think the one place I would, I don't want us to fight on a live. But the one place I think I would push back is I felt like I was completely vibing with that until like maybe the last like 15 minutes. And I felt like, all right, feels like it should be ending. You know, and not that I was like, oh man, this is so long, but it felt like it was going and going, and then it had kind of a closing arc, and then I felt like it just was like the loving couple of like, no, you hang up, no, you hang up.
I get that. I totally get that.
But anyways, I'm still in love with the Batman. I just didn't. You didn't want to hang up, and I was like, well, maybe you should. But cool. So we got pacing there. What about number 4?
Action.
Oh yeah.
So whenever I think of the movie, like afterwards, I was thinking of all the action scenes, and there's some really cool ones. But the one that stands out is the whole Penguin car chasing scene. It was just so intense, and this will kind of bleed into my last topic, but the use of how they filmed all of these unbelievably amazing shots just complemented the action scene so well. It was grounded in reality, but it wasn't so what's that word I'm looking for? It wasn't forced, because you know how certain just straight up action movies force the action, like Michael Bay, like I trip and fall and the curb blows up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Things had a reason why they happened. They had a purpose to them, and I thought they did a great job in building that whole thing and all the fighting scenes.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and yeah, I think it does go back to the realism, like the opening fight scene in the subway or whatever. Like that was super dope, and even like seeing the young guy who's like struggling with being in the gang or not being in the gang, and I mean there's so many things just in that scene alone that I like, even, but I feel like it would detract from us talking about action right now. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And that car scene is the scene from the trailer that I was like, oh, okay, this looks really dope. And so it made me want to like get excited, but I was like, I was nervous, I was afraid. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like Batman at the cliff or the top of the building, thinking about jumping, and I just because I didn't trust that Batman had wings, and it turns out he had wings. So all right, man. And I think I know where your number 5 is going based on what you said in the last one. So where's your number 5?
God, the cinematography was just gorgeous. So Dune cinematographer Greg Fisher did this movie, and he did Blade Runner, the prequel or the sequel. No, sequel, yeah. Blade Runner, Dune, this, and he's doing Dune 2. He is just unbelievably amazing in how he captured Gotham. Yeah. And like I said, with that car, I mean, the color choices that they use for this, it's the same throughout the whole movie. Dirty, just it kind of makes you feel a little bit uneasy on certain shots of downtown Gotham. But then towards the end of the movie, the way that they kind of color corrected, it shows the hope in Bruce Wayne, turning into actual Bruce Wayne for the first time. That shot right there is my favorite in the whole movie. The aerial shot of him leading everyone out of the water. It was just amazing. That shot.
And it's so great with that shot too, because you see so much of this dark and like kind of red glowing. Like there's that theme that is a lot of the times is like, kind of symbolizing like the vengeance or even like the kind of the anger, I want to say. But here it's like now it's the symbol of like hope.
Yeah.
And like we're free and I'm showing you the way out,
Totally agree. It's just
I think you were alluding to this shot too.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you talk about this one before I
No,
jump off.
yeah, you're exactly what I was going to go to. Is that next shot?
Okay.
It's just it's so funny because if you think about it, it is a comic panel. Like I can see this drawn perfectly in a comic. It's just it illustrates the point of how much they cared about the source material. Coming from writing, directing, casting, and even the cinematography, they just nailed the way that this looks. And seeing that walking towards you is horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, especially after the car chase they just had, right?
Yeah.
Like he thinks he's gotten victory over him, and then suddenly, like propelling out or through the fire and it's like, and then you crash, and then oh my gosh, I'd be done. Like, okay, fine, I'll jump off the building because I don't want to be
handcuff me.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, cinematography, man, it just from the opening. I'm a videographer in my job, and I am a sucker for movies that look beautiful, like Dune. Obviously, it's the same cinematographer, but it was just unbelievably beautiful and just crisp. And I can go on and on about the cinematography.
Yeah, and so I was never one who really had, I think, a real appreciation for it. Not that I like didn't care, but like I never was like, oh wow. But I think if I go back and I track the movies that I really have put in like my tops, cinematography is a constant. So without knowing, that's what it was. And now as I've kind of spent some time trying to learn more and more about that, as I'm messing around with doing some videography myself, like I've really come to appreciate a lot that goes into the craft of the coloring and the framing and the composition of everything. It's like, wow, man, they're really putting in work, and it's beautiful. It's like a work of art. So
and that's the thing. They're starting to take these comic book movies a little bit more seriously, like not just with the cinematography or the acting, but think of something like Shang-Chi. That fighting was the best fighting in the MCU. And so they're slowly taking these things and just making them, putting the effort and the time and making these things as top quality as they possibly can. And with the cinematography and the Batman, they nailed it.
Amen. And I think the only thing that I would add to your list, because actually everything that you said was all in there. The only thing I would add to the list was something that I kind of was hiding in there as we were talking. Was the score.
Oh,
the music. The music, man, was like it that matched with the pacing and the cinematography was just like it had you like you were on the edge of your seat, feeling all of the feels and like even I think
hands down, I agree 100% agree on that. I mean, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think this song specifically right here might have actually this is the one where it's like, man, this is so reminiscent of like Vader's like theme,
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's really funny. Yeah, that's great.
and then there's that scene in the movie that's kind of reminiscent of Vader in the hallway, right? It's like, man, I wonder if there's some inspiration coming from that, because I love both of those,
Two things about the music, since you brought up an amazing topic. Number one, this theme reminds me of the Batman animated series and Tim Burton's Batman. It kind of has that feel to me, that like nostalgic feel, but so menacing.
Yeah.
And then, of
That's a great word
course,
for it.
the amazing Nirvana song that they used in the film.
Oh, I don't even know if I recognized it.
Yeah, so
Oh wait, was it
oh,
towards the end?
it's at the beginning, it's towards the end. It
Oh,
plays
they
throughout the
kept
whole
using it.
trailer too. It's such a beautifully haunting song, like by itself, but when you add it to a world like Batman, it
Mhm.
has this. It adds to this film noir aspect that they're
Mm,
trying to go for. And without the music, oh my gosh, this the movie it wouldn't feel, it wouldn't give you that like on
yeah,
the edge of like who's behind that door kind of
yeah.
feel.
I mean, just as we were talking here, and I brought the fader up, like suddenly I was feeling something, that I wasn't feeling before, and it's some of the stuff that you don't recognize in a lot of ways that what it's doing to you as it's
Yeah,
playing. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is part of how they're really driving that emotion home for you, and
music
I
is
I
everything.
loved it. Yeah, yeah, it really is. So I was really really kind of drawn in by the music, and that's the thing that I want to learn to do actual like scores
Ooh,
for work because I mess around with music stuff, but I'm not I'm not like a composer or anything like that.
yet, yet.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Nice. Well, hey man, we've tossed around a lot of Batman stuff here. I don't know if there was anything else that you felt like, man, I would be remiss if we didn't mention. I was gonna rip on Jared Leto's Joker and compare it to the
Oh
Joker that
man,
we got flashes of in this one, but I don't know.
there is one thing that I want to throw out there. I want to predict something. So the Batman 2 was greenlit at
Mm.
CinemaCon.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So in my mind, what I think they should do, I gotta hope this happens. The villain Hush. Do you know who Hush is?
No, I don't think so.
So Hush was a childhood friend of Bruce Wayne's, and he wanted to be Bruce Wayne. He wanted to be Bruce Wayne so much that he actually got face reconstruction surgery to make him look like Bruce Wayne.
Oh,
And he wraps himself in gauze and he starts to kill people.
oh, so he's
Well,
normal. Got
he's normal,
it.
yeah. It fits with the world. He's normal. So what I think should happen in the sequel is they should treat Joker like Hannibal Lecter, Batman as
Mm.
Clarice, and he's trying to solve this crime. But the only way he can do that is to go back and talk to the Joker. And so it's the
Oh.
Hannibal Lecter, it's the whole Silence of the Lambs kind of feel, but still fit within that world. That's what I
You know, I
hope.
like I like that thought. I like that thought. And I think from the trailer, I felt like that was the vibe that they were giving that Joker's role was going to be in this one cuz you got the sense that Riddler was the villain.
Yeah.
But then you were like, okay, that seems like Joker he's talking to or something like that in my mind. So, I don't know. They definitely were trying to like either send us in one direction and do a different thing or they changed their minds. But
I hope
maybe
something
so.
different because in the back of my mind when I first saw that, I was like, we've seen Joker already. I want a new villain. But
Yeah,
then
exactly.
that's what popped in my head of like, okay, if they do Joker, what if they use him in a new way? Not
Right.
like the main
Yeah.
villain, just a massive point to move the plot along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Throw wrenches in Batman's little, in his way. So I mean, who knows? The
That makes sense.
director,
And you can't really tell a full Batman story without
yeah,
mentioning the Joker at least and having a cameo of sorts. I mean, he
that's
was
true.
the central villain for the Batman.
Because I know the Matt Reeves, the director, his favorite villain is Mister Freeze. That's my favorite Batman villain as well.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
from the comics. Okay, I didn't spend. You know what? I did not spend enough time reading the comics, and I cannot get
oh
Schwarzenegger's
man,
freeze out of my head in a bad way. So
if any character needs to be rebooted and just redone, it's yes, it's definitely Mister Freeze.
I should at
But
least try to remember the guy from Gotham who was at least a little bit better. But
oh yeah, I forgot his name. I know who you're talking
I
about.
don't remember either. But
But I don't know if that character would fit in this realism world
no,
that they
no,
created.
no.
So, but who
You're
knows?
right.
Who knows?
Oh, you're right. And like when that's totally a great point because there's multiple villains that like they're just not really realistic, though they're in the comics. So it would that's where it starts to really feel campy and like, okay, like.
Yeah.
But I don't want to bring up movies like The Suicide Squad right now.
The first one, the second one was great, but yeah.
We need to have another conversation about that. I've whatever. Maybe I need to watch it again. Okay, I'm just gonna say I struggled with the second Suicide Squad as well. I know. And my colleague, what is that? Not the word. Co-host. There we go. Co-host on my other show, the Fury and Friends show. There's a link in the description. Check it out. Every other Saturday, we're having this show, and she told me kind of on the side. We had a conversation where we talked about the Suicide Squad, and we were both like, I didn't get it. And then she's like, okay, just so you know, I went back and watched it now, and I think I love it. I was like, what? So apparently loving it's a thing, and maybe I need to give it another shot. So,
Yeah, let's give it a little rewatch and see how it feels.
Cool. Well, Chris, are there any last words or any places you want to direct people or anything you want people to know about in your world before we sign you off?
Yeah, and I too have a YouTube channel. I haven't posted in a little bit. I'm moving, so life is getting kind of crazy. But I do a comic book fan castings on. It's Chris Chavez Nerd News. It's on YouTube. It's fun. I don't take
in the description.
I'll put it in the description.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's some pretty fun stuff.
Awesome. And you guys, if at any point you want to see, us talk about any other type of, shows, we're big fans of Marvel, and we've decided for the Batman to step into the DC realm because we're so used to bashing DC. It finally gave us something to celebrate, so we had to do it. And having said that, we'll chat about anything that you guys really think is exciting that we too have some thoughts on. But make sure you leave comments about that or anything that we talked about there later on. No, lower. My words is disappearing on me, sir. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video, and we'll catch you guys on the next conversation. Sound good?
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, thanks for coming on, Chris. And bye, y'all.
Bye.